Hi, today we're going to talk about the different things that you will be exposed to when conducting a research. So for starters, I want to start with some of the guidelines that are required when you are dealing with humans or animals. So all research on humans must be accompanied with the individual's consent first and foremost. Now, all ethical standards must be followed in order for you to continue to conduct that experiment. All experiments for animals must be in accordance with the National Research Council guidelines, and all experimental procedures must be humane when you're experimenting with animals. So we're going to be talking about a number of different things. So I would like to start first with a pilot study, and why is that important? So a pilot study is important because it allows the researcher to see if there are any flaws before in the research in the experiment. I'm sorry. So I think this is very beneficial if you can conduct a pilot study and then be able to recognize and recognize the flaws and make adjustments where need be. Um, Another thing we're going to talk about is the different research instruments that you can use when conducting an experiment. A research instrument is a measuring tool. Some examples would be questionnaires or scales. And these measuring tools are going to give you an accurate measurement on the different things that you're trying to measure, whether it's whatever that component is. So then you move into the method. So the method is more or less, is this a quantitative method or a qualitative? And so quantitative research involves data, numerical data. So however, whatever data is used in actual numbers, that method will be considered quantitative. The qualitative research involves no numbers, but it may also involve words or language or pictures or different things of that nature. And so, depending on what the research is trying to find, you may use qualitative, or you may use quantitative, or you may use a combination of the two. So another thing I want to discuss is like what your sample size. So what is the best way to choose a sample size? So I found that one of the good ways to choose a sample size is through surveys. So you put out surveys and you see who responds to those surveys, and then you gather that data and that information, and that is your sample size, the people who have actually responded to that survey. So then we have, so back to, let's go back to research instruments for a second. So we have a few different research instruments. We have observations, and this is an experiment where you just observe. We have interviews. This is where you can just interview people face to face, ask them questions, get their responses, and use that data to get to the conclusion of your experiment. We also have focus groups. So they're focused on a particular issue or on a particular topic, and they give their opinion, their input on that particular focus, and then you take that data and you use it for the accuracy of your experiment. And then we also have psychometrics. Psychometrics is questionnaires, or is a questionnaire or test, if you will, and they ask you some questions, and whatever you think, whatever's in your mind, that's what you say. It's like they're trying to analyze how your mind works. And so this course has been very beneficial on teaching me the different and the correct way, the different things in the correct way to conduct accurate experiments. And of course, going back to when you do choose the human, when you do conduct experiment with humans, you have to always remember that, like if you're dealing with children, you have to get consent from their guardians, and that you have to put out different disclaimers that this information is not going to be used, it's not going to be shared. Nobody else is going to be. It's only going to be used for research purposes only. And so, and with the animals, you got to make sure that you're not doing anything unethical or inhumane to get your results uh, from your experiment. And then you outline all this data and this information, and you tell a story. And so you go with your intro, you go with your hypothesis, you go with how you collected your data, the different methods that you used, as we kind of touched on, the research instrument that you use to put this data in the correct perspective. And then you do your formula, you calculate, and you come to a conclusion. And when you get to that conclusion, then you're able to write a narrative on the different things that you found, how you came to these conclusions based on the research and the data provided. And so that's pretty much how you conduct an experiment, and why those different components and different elements are very important, because we want to, you want to do it correctly. You don't want to put out bad information or or invalid research. You want to have valid research that can back up the things that you're saying, and that can show people like, hey, the research says this. It was done correctly. It was done humanely, and it was done ethically. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.